Now, I think it has become wildly apparent at this point in time that Disney just has no intent to create original material. They always like to destroy original works, whether it be the animated classics or anything else that has been made before in the past. They like to remake or reboot or kind of rip off other franchises out there that have been made by other Hollywood studios. And we know that Snow White 2024 and The Marvels, these two movies are going to be box office failures for both 2023 and next year for 24. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. Very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into what's going on with Rachel Zegler. Now, we've already discussed about how a lot of Hollywood studios are beginning to turn their backs on Rachel Zegler, including some studios that have already worked with Zegler, as ironic as that is. We know that there's a lot of things happening right now within the Hollywood sphere. They are slowly but surely beginning to turn the tide. And I'm not saying that we're going to see a light at the end of the tunnel anytime soon, but they are beginning to realize people like Amber Heard, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Brie Larson, and now, yes, even Rachel Zegler, are people that you should not work with. You know, I like to call them the insufferables. You know, that's really what they are at the end of the day. They really are a group of actresses that have no, you know, kind of values in their mind about what they're doing or what the studios are doing. So let's get on exactly to what's going on with the whole Rachel Zegler blacklisting situation, as this has been unraveling the past couple of days, and there's been a lot going on behind the scenes over at Disney, Lionsgate, Universal Studios, and yes, even Warner Brothers. There's a lot to discuss, so let's dive into this. Now, given that actress Rachel Zegler is in the middle of the Snow White drama that started with the leaked photographs of the 7 dwarfs, one major development has to do with the truth of her blacklisting in Hollywood that followed a similar route to those like Brie Larson, Amber Heard, and even Phoebe Waller-Bridge. However, as it turns out, Rachel's blacklisting has been growing throughout Hollywood. Now, given that Rachel was recently dropped from all acting opportunities by Lionsgate, as it turns out, who made the Hunger Games prequel film starring Zegler, Zegler was reportedly in the talks to take part in a massive Lionsgate deal that was going to consist of a multi-film deal that recently fell apart after they realized Disney had dropped her from several movies, both animated and live-action wise, due to her recent interviews going viral about Snow White. Additionally, an even more serious development actually has came out on Zegler's blacklisting situation, where even Warner Brothers dropped her from further conversations of getting additional roles in films, that they also are now restricting her from getting any further acting gigs. This was not only due in part to the box office failure of her role in Shazam! Fury of the Gods that she starred in, but also due to the ongoing backlash of Snow White and how it is becoming very known behind the scenes in Hollywood that Disney dropped Zegler from multiple movies, that's leading other studios to have little to zero confidence in hiring Zegler. So, I don't know if you guys knew this, but if you add up all of the movies that she's been in, all of them have been box office failures. Fury of the Gods did not perform well at all. In fact, I believe it was only in theaters for like about a month before it went to a digital release. That's how bad it really was. Then, of course, now we have Snow White up and coming. We know that everything related to Snow White 2024 is going to be the biggest box office failure, I believe, of all time for Disney themselves, because let's face it, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're actually doing with the overall fairy tale at all. So here's the other thing, is that West Side Story, another film that did not meet expectations at the box office. This is going to be a total of 3 movies that have not made a good source of revenue that Rachel Zegler was attached to. This is also a leading reason why a lot of Hollywood studios are beginning to turn their backs, including the ones that have already worked with her. Now, the Hunger Games, that's going to be interesting about Lionsgate to see how that movie performs. Whether it fails or succeeds because of Zegler or not because of Zegler doesn't really matter. It's going to be just interesting to see if that's going to be yet another film that does not meet expectations at the box office that Zegler was attached to. Now, moving on, we know that Disney is really trying to double down on pretty much all of their live-action reboots and remakes really kind of taking grasp of the DEI agenda. We already talked about that, of how flawed it really is and hypocritical that agenda really is. And that is basically what's being applied here to the Snow White film. Now, given that Zegler, we know that Zegler and her time in Hollywood is getting tighter and tighter. It is just diminishing by the month. Very similar, like I said before, to what happened with Amber Heard and the whole situation with Brie Larson. That's why you don't really see her in too many movies besides the Marvel films, and even that's beginning to diminish. We talked about that as well. Moving onwards, this is where things get even more involved, is that even Universal Studios has restricted Zegler from getting acting roles in Hollywood. More and more studios are beginning to make this decision, very similar to the Amber Heard scenario, as they learn what Disney did to Zegler and how that was proof to them that not even Disney has confidence in Rachel anymore. As it turns out, Disney firing Zegler from their projects are what pushed some of the other studios to restrict her, as of course that was instant reassurance to move ahead with all of that. So again, here's the biggest problem about Rachel Zegler, is that she really went off what she was coached about by Disney on what to say and what not to say about Snow White. That's what led to her firing from the Snow White projects. There were supposed to be prequels and sequels to Snow White 2024. Once they let her go, that complicated things that led to the cancellation of those films. And that's why Disney is already embracing to do a full-on remake of Snow White again, to showcase another iteration of the character. We talked about that as well. It's going to be a mess. They're also doing this in a similar fashion to rebooting the Maleficent movies and Cinderella 2015, as well as Beauty and the Beast. I believe that was 2016, correct me if I'm wrong. So, Rachel Zegler, look, she's another one to join the list, and I'm sure that we're going to have more like her, Amber, and, you know, Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Brie in the future. I don't think it's going to stop with Zegler. I think that you're going to see more and more of these actresses popping up, and with them failing. And I think it's just going to lead Hollywood to eventually just cave in on themselves. And that's the overall problem with Hollywood, is that they don't learn from their mistakes. Only very few Hollywood studios begin to realize that, you know, maybe this person is not okay to work with, let's shy away from them for a while and embrace another. But yet, they tend to follow the same exact mistake one after the other. That's the biggest problem of all in what I like to call the Hollywood sphere, or, you know, as many call it, the Hollywood bubble. So, again, it's going to be interesting to see how Hunger Games performs. I know a lot of people are fans of the Hunger Games. People may very well check this film out. I know a lot of people don't want to see this just because of Zegler, so it shall be interesting to see how this actually is going to do at the box office. But anyway, guys, drop a comment below, fill me below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.